All right, thank you to everyone who has tuned in so far to our virtual healthcare summit. We've heard from a lot of great companies today, and we've got another one coming up. We're going to be talking to Plus Therapeutics CEO and President Marc Hedrick. We've got Marc hanging out backstage. Let's go ahead and welcome Marc on the stream. Hey, Marc, how are you doing today?
Hey, Aaron, great. Good to talk to you again.
Yeah, it's great to have you again. Thank you for
Yeah,
joining us on our virtual healthcare summit. So before we get
sure.
into it and get into the specifics, do you mind providing us an overview of Plus Therapeutics' mission and vision?
Sure. So, Aaron, let me tell you what we do. So, we develop targeted radiotherapeutics for central nervous system cancers. And CNS or central nervous system cancers are some of the most lethal cancers on the planet. They're unsolved medical needs. And our goal is to make them more like chronic diseases, like many cancers have become melanoma, lung cancers, and other become chronic cancers. So, if we could take these very lethal diseases and manage them more like a chronic illness, we're way ahead of the game. Now, these cancers have poor outcomes because of a number of technical and scientific limitations. And actually, our lead drug is an ideal combination of a radioisotope, a unique formulation, and delivery technology that overcomes all of those technical and scientific limitations that limit the impact of current drugs that are on the market for these cancers.
What unique challenges and opportunities do you encounter in developing targeted radiotherapeutics for difficult to treat cancers, and how does Plus Therapeutics approach them?
Yeah, the biggest challenge in treating these cancers is what we call D2T or getting drug to tumor. That's the hard part. And the central nervous system, the brain, the spinal cord are protected anatomically. There's something called the blood brain barrier that keeps about 98% of drugs away from of the tumor. And then the real estate's very expensive, and you have to be very precise with the delivery of your therapeutic. So no one's really even able to get close to what we have shown that we've been able to do with our technology. For example, we're getting very high doses of radiation, 10 to 20 times the amount that can be typically given today using external beam radiation therapy precisely to the tumor, focus on the tumor, nowhere else in the brain or the body. And so the opportunity there is to go after these true unmet medical needs that in aggregate have very substantial market sizes. And we're going after in aggregate about $10 billion in market opportunity just for targeted radiotherapeutics for these CNS cancers.
How does Plus Therapeutics differentiate its targeted radiotherapeutics from existing treatment options for recurrent glioblastoma and leptomeningeal metastases?
Those happen to be our two lead indications. Now, let me sort of break it down and go over each of those sort of individually. So, in terms of glioblastoma, the competition is relatively minimal. It's been over a decade since any kind of drug has been approved for recurrent glioblastoma. And in fact, that drug that was approved doesn't improve survival, it improves symptoms, but that's about all. So our drug, rhenium obisbemeda, that's in phase 1 and phase 2 trials, besides showing safety, it showed a very promising survival benefit or signal in these two trials. Perhaps a 50 to 100% improvement in survival we think is potentially achievable with this drug. So that's for recurrent glioblastoma. So that's bad enough. One approved drug and call it over a decade. But for leptomeningeal metastases, um, there have been no approved drugs. There's essentially nothing out there that's approved. Doctors sort of cobble together existing technology, and things like surgery and radiation even have limited roles for this cancer because it's a cancer of the cerebral spinal fluid, the fluid that's around the brain and the spinal cord and on the membrane wrapping those tissues. And in fact, we're seeing a similar safety profile in the treatment of leptomeningeal disease that we're seeing in GBM, but it has a market opportunity that's 10 plus times higher than recurrent GBM.
And then, Marc, could you discuss any exciting ongoing research efforts or collaborations?
Yeah, uh, sure, Aaron. So, kind of three focus areas for us beyond our two lead programs, which I mentioned a moment ago. The first is pediatric brain cancer. That's a new area for us. We've been working with the FDA to try to get a protocol approved. Um, the outcome for pediatric brain cancers are even worse than adult cancers. They're rarer diseases, but have poor outcomes. Kind of aligned with that, there are metastatic tumors to the brain tissue. Those are actually much more common. Breast cancer, lung cancer, other cancers oftentimes will metastasize to the brain, and there are no good options. So there's sort of a slew of new opportunities for our lead drug. We also have a very promising new therapeutic. It's a targeted radioembolic device, actually. It's regulated as a device, even though it's a drug that literally you could put into any blood vessel into the body. It goes in, lodges in the blood vessel, delivers its radiation, then it's absorbed, goes away, and allows you to come back and perhaps retreat the patient more than once, and
Wow.
perhaps multiple times. Um, and then finally, an exciting opportunity is we've recently licensed a cerebrospinal fluid tumor test that is very interesting, very specific, very sensitive in terms of the testing language. But most importantly, we think it doubles to quadruples the market opportunity for our leptomeningeal cancer drug. So we could do a better job of diagnosing it early. We have a bigger target market and more patients that we can help on the back end.
Wow, that's amazing, Mark. Looking ahead, what are the strategic priorities and goals for Plus Therapeutics in enhancing clinical outcomes for patients with CNS cancers and advancing its position in the field of targeted radiotherapeutics?
So right now, even though what we do is complex, the strategic priority for us is very simple. So we're on the cusp of being in two pivotal or registrational approval trials next year. One for recurrent glioblastoma, and one for leptomeningeal cancer for patients that whose leptomeningeal cancer started as breast cancer. So these are women with advanced breast cancer that have metastases to the cerebrospinal fluid space. So our goal is to finish up our phase one and phase 1/2 work for both of those indications in 2024 and position those for approval trials for 2025. So that's the most important thing because that's the most direct path to getting to market and getting to revenue. And then kind of secondarily, but importantly, and I mentioned this before, is this diagnostic test. Getting that up and running effectively doubles or quadruples the market for leptomeningeal cancer. And when you're talking about greater than 100,000 patients and doubling that or quadrupling that at an average sales price of, call it low six figures, for a patient, that's a very sizable improvement in potential market opportunity. So focus areas, getting to pivotal trials for our two lead indications and getting the diagnostic test up and running.
Wow, yeah, I mean, like you mentioned, huge market opportunity there. Sounds like you guys are doing some great work. Well, Mark, it's been great to catch up with you. I hope the audience enjoyed learning more about Plus Therapeutics today. I look forward to catching up again in the future when you guys have some more exciting developments. Would love to have you back on the stream.
Thanks, Aaron. Take care.
Of course. Thank you to Mark and the team over there at Plus Therapeutics. Always great to catch up with Mark. They're doing great work over there. Now we will kick it back to Zunaid and we'll get back to our programming for the Virtual Healthcare Summit here at Benzinga.